Welcome to the Next Gen Podcast. Stepping up to the microphone are your hosts, Bryson Wright and Alex Winton. They got next, so let's get to the show.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into the Next Gen Podcast here on the Bluff City Media Podcast Network. As always, I'm your host, Bryson Wright, and I'm joined by my co-host, Alex Winton. And we got a lot of stuff to get to about the current Grizzlies on this episode, but we got to start with the biggest Grizzlies news of this week, which is Marc Gasol retiring after a great career, over 800 games played as an NBA player with the Grizzlies, with the Raptors, and with the Lakers. So shout out to him on a great career. Obviously, a lot of his best moments coming in Memphis with the city of Memphis, going back from, it really feels like, even though he's not from Memphis, it kind of feels like he is one of those players that is from Memphis because, you know, he started in high school playing for Lausanne and everything because his brother was getting drafted here for the Grizzlies and everything like that. So it really felt like he kind of grew up in Memphis, and just awesome to see him. You know, that video that he posted was really awesome, talking about the friends he made, being a good teammate and everything, and talking about his journey and how he really has accomplished everything he really could accomplish in the game of basketball, and how he now wants to teach that to the next generation. Working with a school, he went back to his team over in Spain and everything, and he said also turning that into a school to help younger basketball players and everything like that. So shout out to Marc Gasol on a great career. Multiple-time All-NBA, Defense Player of the Year, All-Star. Probably one of the most memorable things people remember was when him and his brother actually started against each other in the All-Star game. First brothers to ever do that. So that was pretty awesome. So yeah, just an awesome career, NBA champion as well. So just want to say congratulations to Marc Gasol on a great career. Because especially for somebody like me, Marc Gasol is one of the reasons I became a Grizzlies fan. You know, that whole grit and grind team really was what got me even more into the Grizzlies than I already was. And he was one of my favorite players for as long as I could remember. Kind of makes me feel a little bit old that all the core four guys are retiring, but we still got Mike. So that's all that matters. But yeah, congratulations. Great career, like I said. And hopefully he can get everything he wants to out of retirement. I also would not be mad if the Grizzlies sign him to one of those little one-day contracts or whatever so he can retire as a Grizzly. I don't know if they're going to do that because I don't know exactly how that's going to work because he already was not playing in the NBA last season. But I would love to see something like that.
Yeah, well, you also got to think, too, about that, the one-day contract. I mean, he probably going to get – not probably. He will get his jersey retired soon. It's just a matter of when, you know what I mean? So that's probably the next thing that's probably going to happen. But, yeah, no, shout out to Marc. Again, people will talk about Marc in terms of, like, you know, people love to debate who's the best Grizzly of all time. But I will say, like, argument-wise, in terms of most decorated, in terms of accolades, it's him. In terms of what, you know, he did, at least in this franchise. What, 3-time All-Star, 2-time All-NBA, Defensive Player of the Year, all defense. Like, now, granted, obviously, job, you would think in like 4 or 5 years, probably going to have that, you know, with a couple more All-NBAs and All-Stars under his belt. Already has the most improved player. But just for now, obviously, Marc is still the guy that's most decorated in terms of the accolades and stuff like that. And again, like you said, he was here in Memphis for a while. Because he was here, you know, or when he was younger, when, you know, because Powell got here. And so then literally right after Powell got off the roster, he went, you know, got on the roster. So we had a Gasol in Memphis for like ever, for like 20 years, basically. But yeah, no, shout out to Marc. Definitely, like you said, obviously it makes me feel old for real. Because like you said, Mike is the last one that's left, like for real. And that's kind of crazy to me because I'm like, man, I'm getting old. Because remember when I was like 12, 13, 14 watching the Grizzlies? Being a fan, still am a fan, but like being a fan, like thinking, let's go, like, and now they've set up. I won't say set up, but like what they did set what is today with the new generation of Grizzlies. Like again, the players there would say that. Like if you know they did, you know they set the tone for what is supposed to happen now. Hopefully the guys that are there now can take it to newer heights. But yeah, nah. Again, like you said, Marc played what I think I did the math before 800 in 18 games as a Grizzly playoff and regular season. Like that's a lot of games. Again, just and like with Mark, that video was really really great. Loved it because I saw it right before I went to work. Really great video. Because he was talking about like what was next for him after every thing that happened, like in terms of his career and stuff like that. Which I do like what he's doing now, because again, like the team that he basically played for got like basically folded, and then he made it or basically revived the team essentially, and now he's like the owner and the president and all that. And like you said, doing stuff with the kids and stuff. Like I think that's great. Yeah, no, shout out to Mark, man, for real. Listen, that's a legend. Like I said, he always gonna be good at Memphis, at least. And, and of course people know about him outside of Memphis, but just like in Memphis, that's where he's gonna be stamped. Like Shams posted the thing saying Mark retired. The one picture that he had of him was in a Grizzly uniform. So when you think of Mark, you think of Memphis Grizzlies. Not just him, but you think of
definitely.
You think of Mike, you think of Tony, you think of Zach. But yeah, he's stamped. So I would love, like I said, I think the jersey retirement stuff that'll happen. I don't know when. That's whenever. I would love to see it this year, but I doubt it just because it's later in the season and all that. But I would not be surprised if they did his and Tony Allen's jersey retirement next season, which would be great. It'd be great because everybody's healthy. Hopefully, your team is better. Like it just makes sense to do it next year. So that's what I'm hoping for. But nah, shout out to Mark.
Yeah, for sure. I probably expect them to do it next year as well. I don't know, just because, like you said, we are pretty far into this season. They could start it out early next year. I know there was some stuff with Tony going on legally, but I think he's all out of that now. So I think they're all good with the NBA to retire his jersey as well. And there might be people from other fan bases or other teams who might be like, oh, Marc Gasol, they didn't win anything with him. Like, man, you got to understand. Like Grizzlies fans know that dude is his jersey going to be retired. All four of their jerseys are going to be retired, man. Because when you talk about taking a team that had never had any kind of success, like you win your first playoff series as a franchise in Memphis with those guys, get to the Western Conference Finals for the first time, stuff like that. That's all really important. And then off the court, the way that Marc Gasol was really like a pillar in the community as well. Did a lot of stuff, like you said, working with kids now, but when he was in Memphis, did the same thing. Definitely, working with all the charities and stuff around Memphis, and just a great guy. And I think I remember when in his post game, or not his post game, but one of the post game interviews when it was clear he wasn't going to be in Memphis any longer, right before the trade deadline, before he got traded to Toronto. People were asking him about that, and he was like, just because my relationship with the Grizzlies or I'm not a Grizzlies player is going to change. The relationship with the city of Memphis is never going to change. I feel like he definitely has a home in Memphis for forever, man. So I hope they retire his jersey. I hope he gets all the flowers he deserves. And really, like I said, really happy for him. Wishing him the happiest in retirement. But yeah, talking about greatest Grizzlies of all time. I mean, he's if it's not him, it's Zebo. But it's those guys, man. It's those guys. Him, Zebo, Mike all have a really good case right now, but it's hard to argue against Mark, especially because most people would probably say he was the best player on those teams. But then that just gets to a conversation. We don't even know if we really need to have that conversation. So just shout out to Mark. Shout out to the whole core four. Really the team that got me into basketball, which is why it holds a special place in my heart. Well, in terms of NBA basketball, at least, those were the guys that got me into the NBA. So I was really, really, it's something where it's always good to see somebody kind of retire on their own terms or whatever, because I feel like even though he wasn't in the NBA any longer, like you said, he went and revived his old team, became the owner, the president, and stuff like that while he was still playing, which I think that was something that was really important to him. And I still believe he probably could have been on an NBA team if he really needed to. I mean, you look around. I mean, shoot, the Grizzlies could have needed him this year. I mean, honestly, but but yeah. So yeah, I'm just happy for Mark, happy for his retirement, excited to see him get his jersey retired, and hopefully, when he gets his jersey retired, the Grizzlies will have more than 8 active players. That is my only hope, because that is what we had in the last game against the Kings. And we got to talk about it a little bit. Yeah. going into that game, you obviously know Steven Adams, Ja, Brandon Clark, those guys are out. But when I got that Grizzlies PR and it said Luke Kennard out, Zaire Williams doubtful, Vince Williams Jr. questionable, I started counting and I was like, wait, they only got 7 dudes. I was like, they only got 7 players. And the NBA says you have to have 8 players. So I was thinking they might make Vince active and only run with 7, but they were able to sign Matthew Hurt to that 10-day contract, and he actually played pretty well. I mean, as well as you could expect for somebody who's on a 10-day contract. I'm not saying he was a world beater or anything, but I mean, for somebody that just came in, and you could tell, like, hey, shout out to Matthew Hurt, but you could definitely tell that he was like on the couch chilling when he got that phone call because he pulled up in the Memphis Hustle sweatshirt, some sweatpants. He looked like he just got done with practice for the G League team. And then he got a call. Then he's getting called up, and you're going against Sabonis and De'Aaron Fox and all these guys. It's like it literally looked like he just got out off his couch. But he came in. Hey, the jumper, his jumper's nice. I did like what I saw from the jumper. It kind of looks like my jumper. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. It's nice though. I mess with his jumper though. 10. So he had 10 points, made 2 threes, and came out confident. And I think that was the main thing I was happy to see for him. But yeah, Jaren had a tough game. They let Domantas Sabonis. I mean, he looked like he was Wilt Chamberlain when it comes to the rebounds, man. Like I literally had to look up. I was like, what is the most rebounds anybody's got in the game? And obviously, Wilt Chamberlain had like 55. Like, okay, whatever. But it felt like Sabonis had about 40. I mean, I think he finished with 25, but it felt like he had way more than that, man. So that was tough to see. But like I said, they only had 8 dudes, and you're playing one of the better teams in the Western Conference. And like I said, my main thing for this team right now, especially with all these injuries, is I'm just really proud of the fight they've been showing. Because there are a lot of teams with this many guys out, they would just roll over, lay down, tank the season, whatever. Now they're gonna lose games, like we've been saying, like just because they don't have the firepower they need. But it's never because of lack of effort. And they went out there and they played really well, and they were up for a lot of that game. And I think they kind of surprised the Kings, and they locked the Kings down, holding them to only 103 points. Only issue, you only score 94. But that's going to be that's one of the issues that you're going to have with this few players. But that defense is what I've really been happy about. So I'm still happy that they are at least fighting. I think there are some things that could be done better when it comes to rotations and everything. But I also know that when you have 8 guys, it's really tough to make a lot of stuff work.
Yeah, well, I will say about the whole thing, like, just it is very tough. It is very difficult. Like again, like when you have 8 players, your margin of error is slim. But I also will say in terms about them, like they were going to struggle to score anyway, even if they were healthy. Just because again, the numbers like we talked about some pods ago, they're like bottom 5 in everything you can name offensively. Whether that's field goal percentage, 3-point field goal percentage, 2-point percentage, I could go down and list the line again, and they still are. The thing is, they just like I said earlier, timely plays and timely shots. That's the thing that they've been more so doing in the games that they've won. They haven't really been scoring because even when they were on that 3-game winning streak, they didn't crack 110 points in any of those games, and that's like not even league average. So you know what I mean. So like a lot of it still again is carried by their defense, which again, is goes to the people that are playing hard, but also goes to Jenkins. Obviously, the scheme. Again, with Jenkins, it always happens. Their defense is usually top 15 every year. Again, sometimes it takes more time than not, like earlier this year. But eventually it's always going to turn around because, again, it's just a learning curve, especially when you got new players and players in and out like they did. Their defense wasn't going to be as consistent. But, yeah, that game was crazy. Like you said, Matthew Hurt. That step back 3, I was not expecting. That was kind of a crazy shot. Like I had to send that little GIF off of. I can't remember what the show is, but my friend, shout out to Nico, he gave me the GIF, and it was pretty funny because it's like a shock GIF. That's how I felt when I saw that step back 3. I'm like I wasn't expecting that. But like you said, he had this hustle stuff on before the game. It was pretty funny. But yeah, no, he played pretty, like I said, he played as well as he could have for 23 minutes, 10 points, which is fine. But outside of that, maybe him and let me look, Tillman, everybody else was bad efficiency wise. Like they shot 38% from the field, 36% from three. I mean, they had 28 free throws, but again, they got killed on the glass. I mean, again, Sabonis did have 26 rebounds, which I do think, if I'm not mistaken, I saw it was a Kings record, like franchise record. So, which is pretty funny. Like, I mean, again, and he was their only person that had even close to double-digit rebounds. Everybody else like 5, 5, 4. So he literally just dominated that game. And so, like you said, it felt like every time that he got a big offensive rebound, it was him. Or like, whether it's a putback or just getting some like another extra possession, it was always him. Because again, they played pretty well in that first, I would say, for most of the game. And then I feel like in the fourth quarter, kind of just slipped away. Obviously, people talked about the rotations with Jenkins in terms of taking Jaren out. Obviously, that was a dumb decision. But I will say, again, it wasn't the decision that cost you the game because, again, Jaren wasn't that good in the game anyway. Not to say that he don't need to be out there. That's not what I'm saying at all. But he already had 5 fouls. He was already shooting 6 of 18. He already had a frustration foul earlier. He wasn't as efficient. He's missing some bunnies. So I felt like just overall it wasn't really a great game for them. But again, considering the circumstances, you can't really be mad because, like you said, 8 players. Like I said, a couple guys. I mean, yeah, a couple guys playing out of position in certain spots. So it is what it is. Like everybody was inefficient. So like I'm not. It's one of those games where just nobody was good, whether it's the coaching staff, and I'm not saying they weren't good at all, but it's very inconsistent. They didn't get it done in the end. So it happens. I mean, it happens. It's going to happen more. But you just hope that these guys learn from it, and guys get out healthy. That's really it for me. I don't want to keep having no disrespect to the players who sign on hardship contracts, which we'll talk about in a minute. The other people, but we don't need. Listen, I want to see healthy bodies going into the somehow, some way into the offseason. Obviously, we're a long way from there, but I don't want to keep having these little injuries. You obviously, and not everybody can be 100% fully healthy, but I don't want no more messed up shoulders, broken fingers, snapped ankles. Like I don't want that. I don't want that. You know what I mean? I don't want that. So, but yeah, no. I mean, considering the circumstances, yeah. I mean, it was good. They were competing. That's what you want. You want them to compete. I know we sound like a developing, tanking, rebuilding team, but considering the circumstances, that's what you got to find some silver lining. So they did compete. They played well. They just didn't play well enough to win the game. It happens. I hate that it happened at home because, again, that home record still needs some improvement. I still hate that home record, but it is what it is at this point right now. So just have to move on to the next game.
Well, I mean, yeah, you say you it's like a tanking, rebuilding team, stuff like that. I mean, when you look at the roster, that's what it is right now. I mean, just overall, I mean, not to say that they are tanking on, like, I don't think they're, like I said, they're not tanking. They are going out there to win every game. There's no question about that. Yeah. But when you just look at the guys they have out there, it's going to be tough in a lot of these games. I do think there are things they could do better. One thing I would like to see, and I know that we've talked about this the last couple of weeks, I'd like to see what GG looks like as a starter. I know as long as he is, I know he played 30 minutes off the bench in the last game. So I think it is good, even though he was coming off the bench, he's still being featured. He's still getting a lot of minutes. But I still just think seeing what he looks like out there in that starting lineup, maybe because I mean you look at who they started in that last game. They started Roddy, Tillman, Aldama, and Jaren, right? That's basically 4 dudes that probably should be playing power forward, right? Like that's really how I feel. I mean, you could like I don't know what position Roddy plays. Like I'll just say that I don't know what position he plays. But the other 3, like you got Scottie Pippen Jr. and a bunch of power forwards out there. So I would have liked to see GG maybe instead of Roddy, just because I think he is a little bit better in terms of shooting the ball. Even though he didn't shoot the ball great in that game, he shot the ball a lot better in that second half. And I think he can do a little bit more putting the ball on the floor and everything like that. So I think that could help him out. But yeah, I mean, it's just hard to build lineups. Like I said, you basically got a bunch of small forwards and power forwards and 2 point guards. Like that's basically what you got. Even with Vince Williams Jr. coming back in this next game, that's basically what you had, which is why the Grizzlies had to sign some guys to some 10-day contracts. So we got to start with Trey Jemison. Trey Jemison, If you didn't know, played at UAB and played at Clemson in college. And he's been doing pretty good in the G League, averaging 11 points and 12 rebounds. Those 12 rebounds is the big thing because the Grizzlies have desperately needed like a true center that can go out there and get boards like that. So I'm really excited to see how he's going to look with the team. And then also Tosan Evbuomwan. So I don't know if I said that right. I'm going to be honest. I tried really hard. But shout out to that guy. Small forward, played at Princeton. And he actually set, I don't know if it was a record, but it was pretty high in the record books. He had 19 assists in the NCAA tournament game as a forward, which is crazy. Yeah, I checked the highlights on that the other day. So this dude's really good passer. When you do give him the ball in his hands, averaging about 8 rebounds, 15 points in the G League. So shout out to him. I think Alex just pulled up the video. I could tell by the look on his face. But yeah, that's in terms of getting 10-day guys, we're gonna see a lot of this because they do have those hardship contracts, and basically the Grizzlies can sign whoever they want to as many 10-day contracts as they want for the rest of the season, as long as they don't have more than I think 3 at the same time, because they've been granted 3 hardship contracts when it comes to missing job for the season, Steven Adams for the season, and then adding in missing, Bane and Smart and all those guys. So the NBA is giving them a chance, so you don't have to worry about running 8 guys again. So hopefully in this next game they'll at least have 11 guys because they'll have the 8 they had in the last game. Then they're going to add Vince, they're going to add Tosan, and they're going to add Trey Jemison. So they should have 11 guys for this upcoming game. So they should at least be able to make a real rotation. But in terms of who's available, I think that's 2 pretty solid signings, and it's one of those things where you're signing them to a 10-day contract. You can keep signing them to more 10-day contracts as the season goes. And then maybe if you really like the way one of them played, maybe one of them can take a roster spot if they do make some trades either at the deadline or in the offseason. But yeah, just more evaluation. And I think that's really the point, is the rest of this season is basically just evaluation. And that's going to be the most important thing, whether it comes to G.G. Jackson, Vince Williams, and Jaren and those guys playing, or if it's bringing in these two-way guys and 10-day contract guys to see what you've got there too. But yeah, I think in terms of what was available, those were 2 pretty solid pickups that they made.
Yeah. Also, yeah, I did look at the thing. I didn't look at the video, but I just looked it up. There was a video of the 19 assists. I'll watch that later because I did not know that was a 19 assists is crazy in a tournament game, especially how college basketball is played. Anyway, that's so crazy to me. But yeah, no, I think again with Trey, a lot of people are asking for him to be like signed like when they first had that other 2-way open. And again, like I always said, there was no point in signing a big. Not no point in signing a big on a 2-way, but you're usually not gonna find a big that should be a real NBA. I'm gonna say usually don't. But usually you spend those, like if they were gonna, I would rather them spend if they're gonna get a new big man, I'd rather them make a trade for another big man, or that could actually be your big man versus find him on a 2-way. Especially because I think that center spots need something else besides like a young player there. But I'm not mad at them taking a swing at a guy if they can find a backup. You know what I mean? And I think Trey, again, a lot of Grizzlies fans talking about him early on, so it's kind of just like better late than never type thing. So people are happy with that. The other dude came out of nowhere, obviously, at least for most people, because I don't think anybody talked about Tosan. So like that was kind of like something that's out there random. But yeah, hopefully these guys offer something. Like you said, it is evaluation in terms of what they're looking at. Obviously, they already know that with the whole, Jaren, Vince, and Gigi, those guys are probably, the main 3 guys you look at, just hoping that they continue to build and develop on certain things, where it's Jaren's playmaking, and then with Gigi learning how to just play in the NBA game and fit in within a role. And obviously with Vince, he already knows how to do that, but kind of expanding more on his game outside of just 3 and D. So I think those are kind of the main things. And then everybody else, can Scottie Pippen Jr. become a player? Does he look like a player that you could actually sign to a contract? And with Trey, is it going to be like, can he be a guy that you could say could be like your 3rd or 4th string big man? And then Tosan, can he be a guy that could be on Because again, Gigi will probably be on contract next year. Could he be a guy that you say, hey, we could sign him with our two-way when we open that spot up? Like stuff like that is probably what they're going to look at. And I mean, I'm not against it. Obviously, there's really nothing. Like, and they're just, I won't say they're playing with house money, but like that's kind of what they're looking at this point. It's kind of like, okay, we got a lot of injuries. Guys got a lot of opportunity, and let's see who can take advantage of the opportunity. Because that's basically how we got with Vince. And I remember what pod was I was watching about opportunity. Oh, it was Jeff Teague's podcast. He was talking about like with players, like they always say it, like you're going to get your opportunity. It's just about can you take advantage of it. And obviously, guys in this season, like there've been guys that we've seen to take advantage of the opportunity, and there's certain guys that we haven't seen taking advantage of the opportunity. And so it's just going to be that's going to continue. Some guys took advantage, and now they're will probably be mainstays in the rotation. Then you got other guys that are still trying to figure it out, whether that's guys that are on contract or these guys that are on 10 days. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Again, hopefully they add some value. I do think they will, because a lot of these guys feel a need. I mean, I think Jemison can feel a need in terms of the rebounding spot and give you another body as a big, just because, again, they basically playing small this whole time outside of basically since Biyombo got cut, they've been playing small. I mean, it's just Jaren, Santi, and basically X, and then outside of that, you playing Roddy at like a small ball forward. Like those are really your big man, quote unquote, per se. But a lot of times they're running the lineups that Kerr was running out there in FIBA. You got Jaren and like 4 guards, you know what I'm saying? So that's probably what's gonna look like. But yeah, I hope they add some value. I would hope that they play tomorrow. I hope they would play tomorrow a little bit, because again, like you said, we should have some more people. If I'm not mistaken, I think Conchar is questionable. Yeah, Conchar is questionable tomorrow. Luke and Rose probably won't play. They're doubtful, but I think Rose will probably play in the next couple games. I think shout out to DeMichael. I think he said that in the article earlier. And obviously Zaire's out, so they should get some minutes. Especially Trey, because they're gonna need another big man. And then obviously with Tosan, I mean, I think he could play. It just really depends on what they're looking at, So and how the game goes, because Jenkins sometimes doesn't play guys the first couple games, just because they're learning the system and stuff like that. And then certain times, well, at least with Scotty now, they gotta watch his like 2 days, like in terms of like how many games he can play. So little stuff like that they gotta watch. But yeah, I am interested to see what they add, because again, I haven't watched too much of both of them, but I'm interested to see what they can do very well from what I saw in little bits and pieces earlier. So yeah, shout out to them.
Yeah, no. So like, I obviously wouldn't say I'm the expert on either of these guys, but ever since they've been signed, I have gone back on YouTube, looked at some of their best games. So for Jemison, I think he definitely helps them, first of all, on the rebounding front. That's the number one thing they need. I mean, like I said, Domantas Sabonis just had I think it was the most rebounds anybody's ever had against the Grizzlies ever. Right. So you got to have somebody that can just go out there and box out, set good screens, and do a lot of the physical stuff that Steven Adams was doing. Right. Now, obviously, he's not going to do it to the level Steven Adams does, but it's just adding somebody that can do all that kind of stuff. So better screens, boxing out, rebounds, all that kind of stuff. That's basically what you want from him. And then for Tosan, to me, he looks like he's like a point forward, right? So he can score and he can get to the rim all right. He has an all right jumper, but he's probably going to drive the ball a lot more. But he's also going to drive the ball and look to pass. And also, he really likes passing out of the post. Because like I said, going into that 19 assist game, he had a lot of passes where he was either post up on the elbow, post up in the short corner, and then find cutters and stuff like that. And if you're going to be playing him out there with guys like Gigi Jackson and Scottie Pippen Jr. and Vince Williams and stuff like that have, been pretty good on backdoor cuts and stuff like that, I think that's something that could be added to the game a little bit more, because that's another thing I think the Grizzlies also have been missing without Steven Adams, is somebody that can really pass out of those post-up positions. Jaren's been doing it a lot better, but he still, hasn't developed that like little bounce pass that Steven Adams always used to like to hit Desmond Bane on and stuff like that. Now Tosan, from the highlights and everything that I've seen, he has the ability to do that at a pretty high rate. Was the Ivy League Player of the Year and stuff like that at Princeton. Obviously went to Princeton. This is a smart dude. They don't let just anybody into Princeton. So that's, high IQ basketball player, high IQ person in general. So I think that's always a good sign. But yeah, no, I'm really excited about the way both of them play. And then kind of looking ahead to these next couple games, just going back, like what I would like to see change from the last couple games. Like I said, I would like to see GG start. I hope that they get a chance. I think one reason why maybe Scottie Pippen Jr. and them didn't get a chance is because of the games played. They're on a 10-day contract, so these next 10 days they can play however many games they want to. And they also did get a practice in with the team today. So I think that gives them a better chance to play. And we just saw Matthew Hurt get called up. Now I know it's a little bit different for him because he got called up from the G League team itself, so he was already running a lot of the same stuff. Whereas, Jemison was on a different G League team. I think he was on the Pelicans G League. Then he got signed to a 10-day contract with the Wizards, but didn't really play a lot. So he's coming in completely fresh. Same thing with Tosan coming in completely fresh out of the G League on a different team. So it might be a little bit different for them trying to, pick up the new offense and everything. But I think that they are both smart enough basketball players from what I've seen to where you can put them out there and they'll be able to contribute, especially with the amount of guys they got out. Because, like I keep saying, this is unprecedented levels. Like when you're talking, you had to sign people just so you didn't have to forfeit the game. Like if the Grizzlies had not signed Matthew Hurt to a 10-day contract from the Hustle, they literally would have had to forfeit the game. Like they only had 7 active players. This is unprecedented level. The only other time I've seen anything like this was during the pandemic when all those guys were out with health and safety protocols. But this is like legitimate injuries. It's not even that. So this is just completely different. I know that they're what has been a Grizzlies team in the past. I think it was 2015, 16. I sometimes get the years mixed up. Or maybe it was 17, 18, where they had a bunch of different players and they
15,
broke
16.
I was about to say
Yeah,
and they broke the
15,
NBA record for most different players used. The Grizzlies probably aren't going to touch that record, but I mean, when you look at they do have some crazy records in terms of this season. I think they have the most different starting lineups in the NBA. They have the most players that have scored over 100 points this season. Just kind of shows that you've had so many different guys playing minutes. So, because I think GG just hit that threshold as well. So, just it's going to be really tough because I mean it's just crazy. I've never really seen this many injuries uh, at the same time, and it's all to key players, right? So it's just tough, just in general. But like I said, on the bright side of all of this is you do get a chance to do more evaluation. You get a chance to try different guys out. There's less pressure for this season because with Ja coming back and all that, there's a lot of pressure to get to the play in and everything. Obviously, I think they still want to get there, but there's not as much pressure on them, and they can kind of play a little bit more free, and they can just show what they can do. And I think it was even Vince that said it. They don't have to worry about getting sit down and somebody coming in for them if they make a mistake. Like this is what you got. Like there's only 8 dudes, so you make a mistake. Like if you make a mistake and you're Vince Williams Jr., hey, look, you got to stay out there because we ain't got nobody better than you coming off the bench anyway. So I think it's just being different on that front and knowing what it's like to be basically like the second dude. Like Vince Williams Jr. right now is probably the second dude on people's scouting reports coming into the game, which is just crazy compared to what he's going to look like next season. So yeah, it's gonna be it's gonna be different for a lot of the guys, but I hope that this is gonna be good for them for next year as well.
Yeah, to your point about the injuries, it is unprecedented stuff. Kind of like having injuries all to the same. I won't say same, but to your guys that you're paying money to be contributors. Like they're missing. Like if you go look at the injury report, they're missing like a whole playoff rotation. Like I don't think I've seen that. I've seen injuries before, but like you usually don't see that type of stuff. So it is kind of unprecedented in that sense. But again, that's just the hand that they're dealt right now, obviously. So the game's got to be played. Like I always say, like you can say who feel bad for yourself or whatever in this situation, but like games got to be played. And like you said, they can't forfeit these games. They almost had to probably, but like they weren't going to. So you just really gotta play because any given night you could win the game. Like I know some people didn't expect to win like those 3 games in a row, like out of Miami versus Orlando, like those games that people probably had us losing. And so they could easily go out and win on Thursday. Tomorrow they could easily win Friday. You know what I mean? And be cool and feel good about themselves, have confidence. But yeah, it will be interesting to see how they do the rotations. I personally think Gigi will start as going to Gigi starting thing. I don't think he will, just off the simple fact of the contract stuff. I know people think I'd be making up context a lot. I'm really not. This is just the context that I think for more so for what their situation is compared to everybody else's. Gigi is a guy that is a lottery talent, first round pick type of talent, and they got him on a 2-way. They got to sign him at the end of the year. He is a restricted free agent. Pretty sure they probably not gonna. I mean, they prioritizing his development, but not to the point where he's a contract player because he isn't. Because they did the same thing with Vince. Like Vince was prioritized, but then especially once he got that contract, he ended up playing like 30-some minutes every game. So that's just kind of how it is. It's kind of the thing that you'll see with guys. Like it's not, and this is not just exclusive to the Grizzlies. That happens everywhere for guys. So I'm not. I think depending because I think what the trade deadline is next week. If they do make a move and they sign Gigi Jackson to like a 4-year contract, whatever, then I could see him being able to be a guy that gets nothing but minutes in the second half or post trade deadline. Like I definitely can see that happen, which I think will happen probably. But I mean, I think he's going to play a lot. Like it's not a matter of like he'll have some games. Like a lot of it's game by game basis because again, like you said, they're not going to sit out for making mistakes. But you do got to play well and play hard. Like play focus, play hard and play focus. Because there's been times where Gigi will have a game where he only plays like 15 minutes, or Zaire will have a game where he plays like 15 minutes because that other guy was playing better in that moment. So, obviously your mainstays in the rotation is going to be Jaren, it's going to be Vince, but kind of like everybody else, and then probably Luke whenever he gets back, and maybe Conchar. But outside of that, like everybody's minutes is like in the team, he could be from 15, 18 minutes, or you could play 20 to 25 minutes. Like it's going to be a game-to-game basis type of thing, especially now you're adding more players. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. But, I mean, this is the situation they're in. You just hope that these guys play well together, show you some stuff that, you might have not seen early on, and now you've seen it. Like with Vince, he's starting to finish a little bit more. His passing is made elite. And, again, like you said, he's probably second or third on the scouting report, so that's going to help him for his growth because, again, let's say hypothetically speaking, you go into next year and like he's in the starting lineup with like a Jaren and Bane, and then maybe a new center or the same center, whatever the case may be, he'd be the 4th or 5th on that list in terms of what to worry about in terms of offensive focus or defensive focus for the opposing team. So that's going to help his development. Same for GG. Just getting the reps as a 19-year-old kid who needs the reps, like needs the game reps that will help him going forward. And obviously same with Jaren being the guy that he's the first guy on the scout report. So they're going to bring doubles all the time. They're going to make life tough for him all the time. And next year he'll probably be the third option as he was and probably be the best third option because of it. So you kind of have to look at stuff like that. So yeah, I am interested to see because again, they got the back-to-back Thursday, coming up tomorrow and Friday. I would like to win the Golden State one just because it's Golden State and they're at the bottom with us too. And I got friends that are fans of the Golden State Warriors, and I kind of want to just make jokes. So I would love to win that game Friday, which is absolutely love.
So basically, you said you were to troll Nico. That's what you just said.
Yeah, probably, but that's not the only person. I got another dude named Marv. Yeah, like there's a couple people I want to troll just to laugh. Like I want to make jokes.
I get it. Oh, because the first time when they beat him, I definitely did the same thing.
Yeah, but I can't really. But sorry for cutting y'all, but I can't really troll Nico because like he understands that this team is bad. But I can troll other fans if they see it, which is cool. You know what I mean? Like I'm fine with it. Just a little playful banter. Maybe Cleveland's like just to win Cleveland. Like I just want to have fun because again, it's hard to find fun in seasons like this sometimes. So I want to have a little bit of fun still because they still win games they weren't supposed to win. Like the Orlando game, both teams were trying to lose. They ended up just I seen it. Both teams trying to lose, and we still end up winning. It's cool. I troll Miami fans. I have some friends that are Miami fans. We beat them. Like it's cool. Like I can still find little stuff within the season to be, to competitively talk about. So yeah, I am interested to see how these games go. But yeah, it should be fun. It should be fun. Let's hopefully competitive and fun. Let me say that.
Yeah, definitely. And then talking about the injuries and stuff like that, it does look like they might be getting some help at some point. It looks like Desmond Bane, from pictures and videos we've seen, is back practicing at least. Didn't look like he had a boot on today in the pictures that I saw. Might be a little bit ahead of schedule, but you're still probably at least, even if he's ahead of schedule, probably at least two weeks away from him. And then we'll see what's going on with Marcus Smart when he can come back. But it's one of those things where if they can, like the play-in right now, I still think is something that like Jaren and the guys are thinking about, and they're thinking if they can, you know, if they win at the rate they have been winning, they might have a chance. Mostly because a lot of the other teams that were ahead of them have been starting to fall off. Like the Warriors haven't been playing great. The Jazz have actually been playing really well, but like the Warriors haven't been playing great. Lakers haven't been playing great. Rockets have now been losing some games too. So it's like all those teams that it seemed like were really far ahead of you, you're still, 3-4 games back, but you're basically just as far back as you were when John, Bane, and Smart and all those guys actually went down. So you've basically stayed in the same spot. The only thing is now there is going to be less games to make that up, so it is going to be a little bit more difficult, and you're still not getting Ja back for the rest of the season. So those are the reasons why it's like, obviously, I still think it's a long shot, but I think in terms of the players fighting there, like I think they're telling themselves, hey, if we can just hold off until, Smart and Bane get back, and we can be within a couple of games, we can at least make a run for it at the end. And it can at least be like, oh, we're going into the last 2 weeks of the season, and we're like, if they win out, or something like that, you know what I mean? Just to keep the fans a little bit involved. But I still think, even with all the injuries and stuff, if they can get Marcus Smart and Desmond Bane back with the way that this team has been playing so far, like I think they will be all right. Because if you can get a starting five that's like Smart and Bane, maybe Vince, Gigi, and Jaren, like if you can have that five to close the game, I'd be so fine with that five closing the game. And I think that if they could just get Bane and Smart back, I think a lot of these games will just look even better than they have looked. But like I said, I think they're doing basically the best that they can with kind of the hand they've been dealt. Obviously, like I said, there's still some stuff they can do better. But I feel like a lot of these mistakes is because you got dudes playing out of position. Like you got David Roddy initiating the offense. Like that's not what he is. That's not what he does on an NBA level. When David Roddy's good, he's a catch and shoot guy. He's a post up guy. He's not a dude you give the ball at the 3-point line and tell him to go dribble, right? Same thing for a guy like Zaire, right? When he's at his best, he's catching lobs, he's doing catch and shoot. He's not taking the ball off the dribble and trying to score inside, right? So it's like you got a lot of guys out here being asked to do stuff that they have never done on an NBA level. So it's just like it's going to be hard to win games. And that's why I think just having Bane and Smart back, and then they're also going to need Jaren to be better because Jaren is one of those guys who he has his stretches of dominance, and he has his ebbs and flows of the season like everybody else. Had a couple of tough shooting nights these last couple games, but usually if he has a couple of those, I think he will bounce back, especially playing against Cleveland, because I'm pretty sure that either Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, they've been out. I know Evan Mobley's been out.
Yeah, most of Mobley's been out, and then Garland's been out, but they played tonight, and apparently, from what I looked at, they might play tomorrow. I don't know yet because they just got but Garland got back tonight, and then Mobley got back like a game ago. So like they might not play. Who knows? Like we'll have to see. But yeah, those are the two that haven't played.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. But even if they don't have those guys, I mean, the Cavaliers have still been pretty good without all those guys. A lot of that because of Donovan Mitchell just basically taking over. And we know that Donovan Mitchell hates the Grizzlies. Like, Donovan Mitchell is a certified Grizz killer. So definitely going to have to watch out for that, which is why I'm really glad that Vince Williams is going to be back for this game, because they were going to need somebody that could really take on that Donovan Mitchell assignment. And I think he's the perfect guy for it. Hopefully obviously his injury wasn't too severe because he was questionable, missed the last game, and is already back. So hopefully he'll be all right, and he'll be, if not 100%, he's at 90, 95%, hopefully. Maybe it was just a little bit of a, maybe a load management game for Vince Williams. That's the point of the season we're at. But yeah, I hope that he'll be all right, and I hope that he can really continue to prove. I mean, because he's been guarding the best players in the league, whether it's Luka, whether it's LeBron, whether it's freaking KD, Devin Booker. Like he's been guarding all these dudes, so it's just another all-star, superstar level player that he can add to his resume of who he's guarded. He's been having this season. He's been having one of the hardest matchup difficulties in the NBA. Saw that the other day. So glad he'll be back for this upcoming game. And yeah, just another game where you can kind of evaluate some new guys along with, because I'm going to keep saying it. The rest of this season, to me, is mostly about Jaren, Gigi, and Vince. Those three guys. And Jaren getting better as a passer, Jaren getting better as the number one guy, and then Gigi and Vince just continuing to develop into the players they need to be for the Grizzlies to be like a championship level team. So I like those are the guys that I'm really looking forward to. But obviously, when you add in the new guys, the 10-day contract guys, good to see them get a chance. And obviously, hopefully, they'll play good for the Grizzlies, but also just for their careers. Like, even if they don't end up signing with the Grizzlies, this is an awesome opportunity for all the 10-day contract guys to, whether they're auditioning for the Grizzlies or they're auditioning for somebody else to be on somebody's summer league team next year or to be on a two-way contract, all that. So a lot of evaluation, a lot of kind of like what you said, playing with house money basketball. So I think that's that. Like if you're struggling this season, I get it, because these losing seasons are not for everybody. But it, like, obviously I'd rather them be winning these games too. But in order to look at the silver linings and try to continue to enjoy those games, you kind of got to pick those few moments and look on the bright side, or it can get, like, with the amount of losses and stuff like that, it can get really tough. It can get really tough for a lot of fans. So that's what I would say to anybody who's been struggling with that, is try to look at the bright side, try to look at the development, kind of like it was a couple years ago when the Grizzlies first had Ja and he was a rookie and they kind of fought into the play-in and all that. They kind of felt like they were playing with house money, right? So kind of feeling like you're kind of back to that level again just for this season. And that's the best way, I think, to still get some enjoyment out of the season, even though it has been tough.
Yeah. They really just got to take it game by game. That's really it. So all you can do is take it game by game. So if they continue to take it game by game and do what they need to do, things will work itself out. Like I always say, it's gonna work itself out. Like, we could be in here next week talking about them going like 3-1 in a insane stretch because they play Cleveland, Golden State. I think it's Boston Sunday, and I think the Knicks after that. They somehow go 3-1 in that stretch, that'd be crazy, which I don't expect. But just saying, we seem to do unexpected things. So very interested to see how this next week of basketball goes. See if anybody emerges even more. We're going to have another GG 20-point game, shoot 30-point game somehow. You know what I mean? Like, little stuff like that. Hopefully we'll see. But, yeah, I am interested to see how it develops. You just got to look at the little things. Look at the little things. The silver linings, quote-unquote, as my boy Parker Fleming has been saying on Twitter. The silver linings. So, yeah. Hopefully things go well. And, yeah, just, I'm interested to see how it plays out.
Yeah, definitely. And then before we wrap up, as always, just want to say thank you to everybody who listens to the Next Gen podcast every week and continuing to support us. Obviously, like I said earlier, has been a tougher season than a lot of people probably expected. But even with all these injuries, there still are silver linings and things to look forward to every week. So appreciate everybody that's been tuning in every week and everything like that, whether it's on YouTube or on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your podcast. As always, I'm your host, Bryson Wright, and I was joined by my co-host, Alex Witten, and we will see y'all next week.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Next Gen Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a like and a comment wherever you download your podcasts. head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co, where you will find comprehensive coverage of all things Memphis sports and how you can become an insider. We'll see you back here next time.